Hello Dragon Wisps, welcome to today's video. Today we are going to be doing the Ranger class of Dungeons & Dragons 3.5. Before I begin, as always I'd like to remind you to like the video and subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet to become a Dragon Wisp. And if you'd like to support the channel more directly, you can do so at the Patreon link in the description below. Alright, before I get into it, I just want to point out, Ranger is a bit of a misnomer. They have the capability to be highly skilled at range or in melee combat, whereas the name would suggest that they are only good for ranged combat. So, anyway, without further ado, sit back, relax, and let's work on making a level 1 ranger. Alright, so before we get started, I'm assuming you've already chosen your race. However, generally I would recommend like an elf or half-elf, or obviously human, as a ranger, depending on what type of ranger you want to be. Alright, so abilities for a ranger that are important. Dexterity, obviously, because a lot of their skills are based off of dexterity, plus they tend to wear light armor, as that is really what they're proficient with. So unless you're multi-classing, chances are you'll be wearing light armor. So dexterity, as we know, increases your ability to dodge out of the way. Other than that, you've got strength, which is also important, particularly if you're a melee ranger, for obvious reasons. And wisdom, another ability that your skills as a ranger will be based on mostly is wisdom, as well as ranger spells. You require a wisdom score of 11 or higher to cast any ranger spells at all, and obviously you require the total wisdom for each spell level. You can be any alignment, which is good because, let's face it, between you and me, I don't like playing a class that tends to be required alignment. You know, lawful good, for example. And you have a hit die of 8. So that means at level 1, you'll have 8 plus your constitution modifier, and every level thereafter will be rolling a d8 and adding your constitution modifier. Now let's get into the first level ranger abilities. You have a base attack bonus of +1. Rangers level up with full base attack, so that means it goes up every single level. You start with a fortitude and reflex save of both +2, but no will save, which obviously would make you're a ranger. Your entire life is about surviving out in the wild, so avoid traps, avoid being poisoned, stuff like that. You don't have any spells at first level. You don't gain your first spell until level 4, so we're not going to worry too much about that right now. You are proficient in all simple and martial weapons, as well as light armor and shields, except for tower shields. You gain the track feat as a bonus feat, which we will get into later, in more detail, but basically it's using your survival skill to track, which goes without saying. Wild empathy, which means you can use your body language, vocalizations, and demeanor to improve the attitude of animals. It essentially acts as a diplomacy check. Typically, a domestic animal would start as indifferent. Wild animals are unfriendly, so as you succeed, they'll become friendlier towards you. the ranger and the creature with the attempted wild empathy check against it, they do have to be within 30 feet and be able to see each other normally. So there's that. You can also... Oh, I made it ahead of myself. It takes 1 minute per level of influence. And then you can also influence magical beasts with intelligence scores of 1 or 2, like a basilisk or a Giralon, but you take a -4 penalty on the check. Now, on to the best part about a level 1 ranger. Favored enemy. So you choose an enemy type, and I will list them, and you gain +2 bonus on bluff, listen, sense, motive, spot, and survival checks against creatures of that type, and you gain a +2 bonus on weapon damage rolls against such creatures. At 5th level, and every 5 levels after that, so 5, 10, 15, 20, you select an additional favored enemy, and the bonus you get on one of your favorite enemies, including the one you just selected, increases by 2. So at 5th level, you have 2 favorite enemies. One of them you get a +4, and the other one you get a +2 for your bonuses. Alright, now the list of favorite enemies. I'm going to list the type or and subtype, and then give an example. This is going to be reading it off the table here. Aberration, example is Beholder. Animal, Bear. Construct, the example there is a Golem. Dragon, that one goes without saying. They've got Black Dragon down, but it could be any dragon, obviously, as long as they're the dragon type. I'm reasonably sure that that also includes creatures of the dragon blood subtype. So that would be like a Dragonborn, for example. Elemental, Invisible Stalker. Fey, Dryad. Giant, Ogre. Humanoid Aquatic, so Merfolk. Humanoid Dwarf. Humanoid Elf. Humanoid Goblinoid would be like hobgoblins and stuff. Humanoid Gnoll. Humanoid Gnome. Unfortunately, you do need to specify what type of humanoid. I'm sorry about that. Humanoid Halfling. Humanoid Human. Humanoid Orc. Humanoid Reptilian. So this can be like the kobold or other creatures of that type. Magical Beast. So creatures like the Displacer Beast. Monstrous Humanoid, Minotaur. Ooze, the Gelatinous Cube. The next bit is Outsiders. So Air, like the Arrowhawk. Chaotic, Demon. Earth, Sorn. Evil, Devil. Fire, Salamander. Good, Angel. Lawful, Formian. Native, Tiefling. Water, Toyanida. Now we move on to plants, which would be like your shambling mound. The undead, zombies, skeletons, things like that. And vermin, monstrous spiders, and things like that. So remember, you gain bonuses against whatever type you choose. Generally, you want to choose one that would like fit the campaign you're in, which isn't always possible at the beginning, like when creating your character. So my personal opinion is it's best to choose a common opposition that you would potentially run against and go from there. You know, later on, you know more or less what the campaign's about, so you can specialize that way. Alright. So, that is a level 1 ranger. Alright, now we're going to go over my most and least favorite rangers that I have not necessarily played, but played with. So my favorite ranger was one that I played, obviously. My ranger had chosen the melee path for combat styles, so dual wielding, which I tend to operate with more often than not. And as he leveled up, he gained more and more feats and proficiencies with the dual wielding. He was quiet. Quiet, but not to the point where it became annoying. Like, he wasn't mute. He just didn't always speak up when it came to just minor things here and there. There's not much to say about him. I haven't honestly played many rangers, so I mean, he got some really, really good hits, and with the hide in plain sight ability, that was a bit of a game breaker, to be honest. Now my least favorite. I honestly don't know how to explain this. This ranger was played so poorly that it didn't just reflect on that ranger. The rest of the party was affected by it every single time he did something. Like, we're sneaking into an enemy camp. He decides, oh, I see a guard over there. I'm going to shoot at him. Did you see the guard next to him? How about the other guards? How about the guard next to us that we were sneaking past? It was just bad decision after bad decision. So, that's my most and least favorite rangers. So thank you for joining me for today's video. I hope you found it enlightening, educational. I hope there's a wide range of things you've learned. I don't know. And I hope it assists you in creating your level 1 ranger. We're almost done, actually. I think we've got the rogue and the wizard left. Yep. And then we get into things like further explaining skills and feats. And then after that is equipment. And then generally by that point you should have your character almost completely finished. After that it's description and details like that. So but yes, I do hope that it helps. Unfortunately, you're still going to have to wait until I get through the feats and skills and equipment videos before your character's finished. But I do hope you'll stick around for that. And yeah, alright. So, right about now, as always, you should be getting a subscribe button up here. If you haven't subscribed, you really should. Latest video on the channel over here, video recommended for you by YouTube over here, and over here will be a playlist of Dungeons & Dragons tutorials. So, thank you for joining me, and as always, have a peaceful day. Bye!